Now, based on your previous classes, hopefully you recall that the slopes of parallel lines are the same, and the slopes of perpendicular lines are negative reciprocals. Now we're going to do a few examples to help jog your memory, and we're going to expand on that by actually finding equations of lines that are parallel and perpendicular to other given lines. This first example, we have to find the equation of the line through the point 1, 2 and parallel to y equals 4x plus 7. Before we can do anything, we need to find the slope of the given line. So the line that's given is y equals 4x plus 7. Since this is already y equals, this is in y equals mx plus b form, which means that the slope is in front of the x and the slope is 4. So now we have our point and we have our slope. So what we're going to do is we're going to use point slope. Y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. Substitute the numbers in. Y1 is the y value of the given point. M is 4 because the slope of this line is the same as the slope of the line parallel to 4. I'll use that notation right there to represent the slope of the parallel line because they're the same. Then x minus the x value of the given point, which is 1. Now we're going to solve for y because we're always going to solve for y when we're trying to find equations of lines. So we now have y minus 2. We're going to distribute the 4 equals 4x minus 4. One last step is to add 2 to both sides. We have y equals 4x minus 2. And if you were to graph those, you would actually have two parallel lines. And the reason why is because they have the same slope. They'll be crossing the y-axis at different places, but they'll never intersect. Now let's look at this example. We're asked to find the equation of the line through 0, negative 4 and perpendicular to 2x plus 8y equals 1. Now we have our point, and we're given the line to find the slope of. So when we find the slope of that line, we can then find the slope of the line perpendicular to it. That's what we're going to do. We need to find the slope of the given line first. The easiest way to do it is to solve for y, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to isolate the y. First, we're going to isolate the y term by subtracting the 2x. Now I always write the x term first, so when I do, make sure you have the correct signs in place. And then I'm going to divide by 8 to isolate y. Now when I do the division, I'm not really going to divide. I am going to divide the whole side, but I'm going to split it up. It makes finding the slope a little bit easier to do. So now I have y equals, I'm going to reduce this fraction, negative 1/4 x. You can write it like that. It is the same thing, plus 1/8. So now that I have this equation in y equals mx plus b form, I know the slope of this line is negative 1/4 because that's what's in front of the x. Now to find the slope of the line perpendicular, and that little symbol right there just means perpendicular, means or is found by taking this slope and flipping it over, which gives us 4 over 1, and changing the sign. Since it's a negative, when I change the sign, it becomes a positive. That's what we mean by negative reciprocals. And positive 4 over 1 is nothing but a positive 4. Now that we have our slope, we have our given point, we're going to use point slope. Now I don't have to, but I'm going to. Whenever in doubt, use point slope. Y is always y. Y1 is the given y value of the given point. The slope of the perpendicular line is 4. X is x, and x1 is 0. Now minus and a minus makes that a positive, so that's y plus 4. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 0 is 0. I don't need that then. The last step is to isolate the y by subtracting the 4. We have y equals 4x minus 4. You actually could have bypassed all this work if you had recognized that this is the y-intercept, because if you were to plot this on the graph, you would have 0, negative 4, which is on the y-axis, which means this is a y-intercept, which means that the y value is the b, which when we did point slope, we also found it to be the b. In other words, We could have used y equals mx plus b and went straight to y equals 4x minus 4, or that's your m, and negative 4 is your b. That's okay if you didn't. Whenever in doubt, use point slope. Now let's look at this example. Find the equation of the line through 3, 7 and parallel to x equals 7, perpendicular to y equals negative 2. So what we're going to do here is, I'm actually going to plot this point and draw lines that help me do it. There are other ways, but this is by far the easiest way. So 3, 7. There's a point 3 right and 7 up. So that's the point, 3, 7. Now I want to find the equation of the line parallel to x equals 7. Now what that means is, I need to first graph the line x equals 7. That's what I'm going to do. Since it's x equals, and it's going to go through the x-axis only. Because anytime it's x equals, that's a vertical line. So I'm going to draw that graph. It's close enough. So that is x equals 7, vertical line. Now, I want to find the line parallel to x equals 7 that goes through the point 3, 7, which is this point right here. Which means, for it to be parallel, I can't intersect it, and the only kind of line I can draw is a vertical line also. And so that's what I'm drawing, vertical line. And it goes through this point, which is 3, 7. And what is this line? It's a vertical line that goes through the x-axis at 3, which is x equals 3. So the equation of the line through 3, 7, parallel to x equals 7, is the vertical line x equals 3. And I'm going to draw another grid. So we can do perpendicular to y equals negative 2. But first, let's plot this point, 3, 7. Now, let's draw the line y equals negative 2. Now, y equals negative 2 goes through the y-axis at negative 2. Which means, since it's y equals some number, it's a horizontal line. Y equals negative 2. Now, I need a line that's perpendicular to y equals negative 2. Perpendicular basically means, or all it really means is, that the two lines meet at right angles. So if you have a horizontal line, then the line that's perpendicular to it is going to be a vertical line. And I need that vertical line to go through the point 3, 7. And so, these two lines meet at right angles. These two lines are perpendicular. So the given line is y equals negative 2. The vertical line that goes through 3, 7 is, once again, x equals 3. What if I had said parallel to y equals negative 2 that goes through that point? In that case, since the question would have been parallel, it would also be a horizontal line, because that's the only line I could draw where it won't intersect this line. And since that horizontal line goes through the y-axis at 3, or at 7 I mean, see that, y equals 7. Y equals 7 will be the equation of the line horizontal. I take that back. Equation of the line parallel to y equals negative 2. So y equals 7 and y equals negative 2 are parallel. Y equals negative 2 and x equals 3 are perpendicular. The reason why it's y equals 7 because we wanted to go through that point 3, 7. Now take a good look at it. If we have a horizontal line, it's always going to be y equals the y value. If we end up with a vertical line, it's always going to be x equals the x value. That always happens. Just keep that in mind.